It's a pleasure to be here today. My goal of this talk today is to make you more optimistic about our future. I know it can be tough, sometimes I struggled myself, but I came to the conclusion that negativity is not going to help. The only way we can push for positive change is when we work for a vision of a better future together. And this together I want to talk about today. Have you ever asked yourself why it is us humans that have risen to this comfy spot at the top of the food chain? Well, I have, especially in recent years. And there's three main reasons. The first two are we are able to do complex problem solving. Furthermore, the second one, we have the creativity to use tools to help us with this complex problem solving. And lastly, and more importantly, we have the skill to closely collaborate to form strong, tight-knit communities. And today I want to talk about community because when I look at this rapid change in technological development of the past years and our unsustainable consumption habits, I think we don't really struggle with the building tools part or the complex problem solving part. So humans have lived in close communities since their beginning. Why? Well, because it's the safest and most efficient way to live. It's safe because we can help each other in times of need. One day I catch a rabbit, tomorrow you might catch one, and we can also bundle our strengths to achieve greater things together. It's efficient because we can share space, resources, and labor, and also beautiful moments. There's multiple examples throughout history and the whole world of such ways of living, such as the longhouses of the Vikings or the Chinese Tulu houses, or actually just any large European farmhouse before the 1700s. Would host multiple families or extended families and other community members, and they would share space and resources together. This changed when the Industrial Revolution hit, because we started to become more efficient, which decreased the need to closely collaborate and live with each other. So we could exchange labor for money and could buy the things we need and wouldn't have to trade them anymore or go pick them ourselves. And many of us had the capacity to afford our own living space with clear privacy boundaries. So walls, curtains, fences. So what happens? Socializing suddenly goes from being a necessary survival mechanism to becoming a skill and a way of self-fulfillment and a hobby. And that sounds quite tricky. But luckily, we had social media companies that came around the corner, and now we can socialize from the safety of our bedroom without even having to talk to someone. So I guess we should be more connected than ever. No? Actually, that is not the case. Globally, and especially in the developed world, we can see rising rates of loneliness. And that's detrimental to our well-being because the single most important indicator for our own happiness is the quality of our social relationships. Let that sink in. The quality of our own, the single most important indicator for your happiness and my happiness is the quality of our social relationships. And it's mind-blowing to think that we have so many luxuries nowadays that our ancestors couldn't have even dreamed about, from vacuuming robots to dating apps to being able to eat watermelon all year round. But still, it seems that we're not getting happier, so the plan doesn't work out. It seems like we're caught in a vicious circle of being lonely, which makes us sad, and then we buy things we don't really need for short-term dopamine rushes, which eventually leads us to trash our planet through our high production of waste and our high CO2 emissions, which then makes us sad again. Because it really seems that we struggle to fulfill this need for community that we have developed over thousands of years. So what is the problem? It seems to me that we struggle to keep up with this fast pace that the world is changing. Because think about it. A few hundred years ago, it was very normal to live in the same village for all your life, surrounded by the same neighbors, friends, and families. So it's very easy to have a strong social community. But nowadays, it becomes very normal to change locations every 4 to 5 years to ever-growing super mega cities with millions of people that we can choose to socialize with. And if they don't choose us back and we struggle with the socializing part, there's an abundant amount of ways to entertain ourselves and distract us, like surfing an algorithm for hours. And as it might distract us, it does not solve the problem. So what should we do? I think we should take what has worked in the past and apply that to the present and the future, which is, it's easier for us to socialize if we have to. So the higher the barriers to exit in a relationship, the more committed we are to make it work. Think about a marriage contract or times with co-workers and classmates that you became friends with, and you might not have a lot in common with them, but by going through common experiences together and spending time, you become friends. Which brings me to my next point. Solving problems together brings us closer. Co-creation is key. The only way we can feel as part of a community is by investing our time, energy, and creativity into it. And lastly, the closer we live with each other, the easier it is for us to share. And the easier it is for us to share, the less waste we will have. And the less waste we will have, the more efficient we will be, so we can use our resources more efficiently. Because, to be quite frank, we're in a very similar position than our ancestors. We have realized our resources are scarce. But the most important question to answer is, how do we get the consumers of today to adapt their lifestyle if we live in a society where being able to buy a lot of things and not needing to share is seen as luxury? I made it my mission to find this out, so I've researched and talked to some of the leaders in the co-living, so communal living movement, and I brought you a best case example today of a company that is already doing this quite well. It's a Danish co-living company, and they opened up a platform where co-living interest people can sign up to. They have to fill out a quick survey. Where would you like to live? Who could you imagine to live with? What would you be willing to share? But also, what are your values and your hobbies, etc. They then use an algorithm to connect like-minded people, let's say 20 young families that want to live outside of Copenhagen. And they will then bring these 20 families together with a community manager and at some point an architect and help them to co-create a vision of their perfect community and space. So they ask themselves the question, which shared spaces do we want to have? Do we want to have a sauna or a whirlpool or maybe a big communal kitchen where we can have potlucks in? But also, which resources do we need for this community and which ones can we share? Do we want to share fancy vacuum cleaners or our bikes? Or do we want to have solar panels on our roofs? And lastly, they also ask themselves the question, what is our community? What are our values, our traditions, and how do we approach the resolvement of conflicts? And once this vision becomes more clear of the community and the space, the co-living company then makes a budget and asks the community members to invest and show commitment. Surprise, also their investment and ownership structure is inspired by community. I could probably have a whole nother TED talk about it, but I'm just going to give you the quick facts. So basically, the community members only have to come up with a small fraction of the total sum needed, normally around 10%, and the rest of the money will be given by the platform, in that case, the co-living company. Through that, the community members are able to cooperatively co-own the space at a very low risk. And the only way all the stakeholders involved, so the co-living company and the members, can get a return on investment is if they work to make this vision of a space and a community become reality. And that's a very interesting ownership model for us young people who do not own real estate yet, because we can help develop and own real estate at a very low risk and a low initial investment. If you're interested and you feel like having a headache, you can look it up. It's called Baugruppe model. But let's continue. By going through this co-creation process of thinking, what do we need, the community members have a unique opportunity to leverage the economies of scale, because if 20 families buy solar panels together, it's a lot cheaper than a family does it alone, so we can increase accessibility to sustainable infrastructure. And last but not least, we can use the digital platform to propose ideas and new initiatives, but also to facilitate the process of sharing. And through the use of technology, processes that would have taken days and weeks with many votes and potentially a fist fight now happen in minutes. And don't mistake me, these are not cults or gated communities that live in the middle of the woods and do weird things. These are just normal everyday people with friends and life outside of the community, but they chose to live in a way that promotes social interaction and connection by sharing space, moments, and values. And at the heart of this whole concept and why it works, because it does, is the idea of co-creation. Because the only way we can create self-sustaining communities is by letting the community create itself. The more someone is able to partake and influence this communal experience, the more they will be able to identify themselves with the community. And the more they're willing to invest patience and energy and creativity into it. So if we find ways to scale such ways of living, we could create enormous triple bottom benefit for the planet, people, and businesses alike. The opportunities are endless. But my time for this talk isn't, so let's wrap it up. Let's look into the future. We've learned today that despite our unsustainable luxuries in the modern world, we're not really getting any happier. Furthermore, by living together in a communal way, we can use our resources more efficiently and create value through social connection. Hence, live happier and more sustainably. So if we would use these efficiencies that we can gain through communal living that has worked throughout human history to help the sustainable development of the developing countries, it would be a great benefit to us all. Because quite frankly, if they develop like we did, we are doomed. But if we don't change our sustainable lifestyle in the developed world, we cannot expect them to change. So we have to reflect upon our lifestyle and what makes us happy and lead by example. Because we're all sitting in this world, in this boat called Earth, together. And if I think about a desirable future for my children, I don't see them owning 3 cars or spending their whole day with goggles on in a digital space, but I think about a healthy planet and a lot of value that is created through social interaction and shared value, and a whole peaceful community. Is it going to happen? I don't know. But I want to give my best to even get a little bit closer to this communal idea of world. And that's why I stand here before you today. And I urge you, if the opportunity arises, and you're changing place, whatever, consider co-housing, consider co-living, and let's work towards this vision of a better communal world together. Thank you very much.